I've been thinking a lot about how, there are intersections with energy and this kind of cataclysmic event and what it means to our country, and why it would be very reassuring to me now as a policymaker to know that I had the rock solid energy security of the United States under control, that my strategic petroleum reserve wasn't at 30-year lows, that our production was ramping up, and most importantly, our investment in our infrastructure was increasing to support future American energy needs. Sometimes even Republicans toss around the term energy independence, I think, very loosely, because that's a much more complicated proposition than many might think, given the global nature of American energy markets. But the fact of the matter is, it is possible to establish American independence. If a future president came to me and said, for whatever reason, zombie apocalypse, whatever, we were declaring Fortress America, I could do that. It would be difficult, expensive, and probably a little bit painful, but I could do that. And we could also do that in terms of food. So making us, I think, the only country of our scale that could both feed and fuel ourselves independently, which is a massive advantage, particularly in terms of China, and they know it. And they are deeply concerned about it. And to Andrew's point, I agree with the term dogma. They have made a whole series of decisions to try to undermine that security for the United States. And what we're seeing out of our current leadership is this dogmatic approach, which is driven by, to my observation, two sort of key priorities. One of them is to get the United States to net zero by 2035. The other is to get to global net zero by 2050. And if those are your driving sort of priorities, you have a problem vis-a-vis China, because they can't get to 2035 without cheap Chinese products like solar panels and wind turbines, because they can't make them economically viably here at home on that time frame. I agree with Andrew, if we're going to have them, we should make them here at home, but they can't get there, so they have to have it. And they can't get to global zero 2050 without a deal with China. So they strategically can't contemplate a rift with China, a conflict with China. They have to keep talking to China, or else they can't get to these predetermined goals. And so I think that is what is driving what those of us who do value United States energy security find to be an extremely confusing and disconnected policy. So my hope would be that as we go through the coming months and a little over a year, we can draw a very bright sort of policy division between that approach and what a different type of leadership might present. And I think the current crisis that we have in the Middle East is illustrative for that, because on top of these two sort of directives that the administration is working on, they also want to get reelected. And to get reelected, they can't have an oil crisis like we had in 1973 and the subsequent economic disruption. So they need barrels on the market. And unfortunately, if they're not going to be American barrels, and you haven't created a system of energy coordination with a major producer like Saudi Arabia, you're going to have to get those barrels from somewhere else. And we've seen over the last 2.5 years the failure of the administration, the choice of the administration not to enforce the sanctions that we had on the Trump administration rather had on the Iranian oil industry, in which we got them well under 500,000 barrels a day. They're now up over 3 million barrels a day, and that is product that is keeping prices under control. And removing those 3 million barrels a day right now, if you're not going to really ramp up U.S. production to offset it, you're not going to work closely with the Saudis to make sure they are playing their part, you can't tolerate that politically, to take that product off the market. And you then also flood a regime like Tehran with billions upon billions of petrodollars. And the result of that is, in a fairly direct line, what happened on Saturday, October 7th. So I think, as we can discuss various ways that we can increase U.S. energy production. I'm from Pennsylvania. I was just out in Oil City, Pennsylvania, which is a wonderful place. If you haven't been there, it's where the first oil well was drilled. And some of our producers told me that they could ramp up Pennsylvania natural gas. We're already the #2 state. Sorry, this wasn't supposed to be a public affairs statement for Pennsylvania. But we could quadruple our natural gas production, not tomorrow, but in fairly short order, and nobody is investing because they are terrified of Andrew's former institution coming to destroy projects in which they've invested and spent years. So, I think we really do need to look with a clear eye, what are the consequences, both in terms of China and Iran, of the current policy, and the benefits, the tremendous benefits of what an alternative policy that would still be environmentally responsible might mean. So thank you very much.